What's up, everybody? I am super pumped for today's guest. I have somebody special here. It's Brad Hart. Now, I got to tell you a story about Brad Hart. And I was in a couple different masterminds at the same time a couple years back. I was in Brian Delaney's mastermind, which cost $25,000. And then I was able to join another mastermind that, again, was around $24,000. And the second mastermind I was in, the dude's name was Andrew Cruzy. And I jumped on the phone with one of his salespeople, and the guy was savage. He was able to get me enrolled to the program, even though my objection was, I'm already putting out a ton of money for a mastermind, and I want to make sure I get the most out of the one I'm already in. He talked me into joining Andrews anyways. And I tell you what, I'm so glad that I did, because I was able to get so much out of it. That's really what helped me create my program and accelerate my growth to where I'm at now. And then I find out who Andrew Cruzy's mentor was and who the man is that helped Andrew build out that mastermind. And that is Brad Hart. So we have Brad Hart here, the master of masterminds. Welcome, brother.
Thank you so much, Kyle. And big shout out and big love to Andrew and Brad Newman, who introduced us in the beginning. And it's funny when you tell stories like that. I'm so humbled and grateful to hear that. And I don't know if I can take all the credit for Andrew's success. Certainly he's a hard worker and very good himself. But I just remember that my life is a series of choices of do I expand in this instant or do I shrink in this instance? And my particular dharma and my particular journey has always been around helping people connect to each other and not tightening up with the network, right? Or not slowing down with the network. And, I just turned around to do this interview today and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I haven't even eaten yet. So sometimes it gets a little over crazy, but I just love to be in that position where I can help so many people through the quality of the relationships I have. I'm not the biggest influencer. I'm not the person who's going to, touch a million lives on stage like Tony Robbins. Maybe that's not what I'm optimized for. But as far as curating great relationships with great people, I've got that in spades. I'm very blessed in that regard. So from my perspective, you want to hear the Andrew Cruzy story? Because I think it's fun. So I was introduced to Brad. He came to my mastermind, which is a Remora strategy, which we teach, where you go to a Tony event, you buy 40 tickets, you invite people to a mastermind beforehand. Some of those people join your mastermind. It's a good way to get people in your mastermind. So you basically, like the Remora under the shark, you're borrowing the influence and network of an influencer to kickstart your own mastermind. So Brad came to that. He was the kind of person who just was lurking apparently for 2 years on my Facebook before he raised his hand and said, I'm in. It was in New Jersey. It was right near his house. And at the time, Brad was living in his basement, making $10, $12 an hour in addiction recovery services. He had a huge heart for people, but he was flat broke. He's, not making any money. And just a really funny, charming, awesome person. And he came to that mastermind. And the second we offered anything, it was literally the first time I ever sold from stage, by the way, was that mastermind in that little house that we rented for this event. He just put his hand up and he was like, yo, I'm in. I'm like, great. Turns out he didn't have any way to pay for it. He's just he's trying to figure it out. So we figured it out. And within, I think it was 55 days, he wrote a post. He's like, I've made more progress in the last 2 months than I've made my whole life. And I'm on my track to 6 figures and I'm learning sales. And he got a job with,
that's freaking cool.
Yeah. He got a job with, Scott Olford at first, selling for them and did really well. And then I got him a job with Sam Mubbins. He sold for Sam for a while. He actually had a month working with Sam with 2 other guys. They did $1 million in sales with him and 2 other guys. Pretty incredible. And that's one-to-one high ticket through Sam's program, which I think was only 6,000 at the time, or maybe they're selling Quantum for 30K or whatever it was. But it was real numbers, like Cole Gordon level numbers. So Brad became incredible at sales. Then he met Jackie, who was also a client, and they got together, and now they're in a relationship, and that's beautiful. And Brad ended up moving in with me for a while, for 18 months. We had a sign that was like the Brads, and he introduced me to Andrew Cruzy and Cole and a bunch of other wonderful people I've become friends with. So Andrew shows up one day, and similar to you, he had been in every program, and I gave him my pitch, and he's like, yo, bro, I got to be in your program too. So he buys it, pays in full. I'm like, this is great. Awesome. He literally looked at the onboarding document, and he's like, this is way better than anything I'm doing. I'm stealing this right now. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead. Whatever. Do your thing. And then he went down the Sam Mubbins rabbit hole and got into systems and optimization. And literally Andrew's mode of working is laying flat on his back on my living room floor. By the way, he started dating my roommate and that was a whole thing. On my living room floor, laying on his back, tilted head up, computer for hours, doesn't fucking move. just works, right? It's pretty amazing to watch. He has this amazing ability to two things, I think, that set Andrew apart. He has this amazing ability to focus to the detriment of everything else in his life on business 100%. When he's dialed in, there's just like an earthquake, a bomb could go off, nothing would phase him. Number two,
Right.
he is amazing at learning something that he might be doing suboptimally or wrong, shifting it immediately and putting it right into practice. Like there's no, wallowing, there's no shamefulness, there's no regret, there's no emotion around it. It's just like, oh, I was doing it that way. That way sucks now because I know this way. I'm going to do it this way. And he just goes hard. And that's awesome. So,
Right.
we bounce off each other a lot, and it's been really interesting to see him grow. And we might actually end up collaborating again on something because he's building. We came to the same hypothesis about a hole in the market, and we built two different softwares that might be able to collaborate together. So if you talk to him, let him know that I'm
awesome.
waiting for him to fucking answer his phone so we can have that conversation. But aside from that, I'm just really grateful to see him grow. I introduced him to Jen and Stacy, who I'm doing work with now. They did a big real estate deal together. It's been really cool to see him take off and sell his business and everything like that. So anyway, long story short, by way of that story, I think you guys understand like relationships are everything to me. And I love to see how they unfold. And I always think that, a great life is really like a great movie. You wouldn't want to see the ending because you wouldn't want to ruin it. But it's like all these twists and turns and arcs and seeing people grow and change and overcome their demons and obstacles and just become the people who they're meant to be, to touch the people and have the impact and create the contribution that they're meant to have is so beautiful to me. So I'm always trying to be a catalyst for that and not stand in the way of that. So part of the reason we're connected is because you're the same way. Kyle, you're a person who really values relationships and networks and, realizes that, yeah, money's cool and accolades and status and all that shit's cool, but it's all a lagging indicator of what I believe is the most important thing, which is building relationships.
100%.
Long story
I agree with
illustrate that point.
Man, and that's awesome. I agree with that 1000%. It wasn't until I built the right relationships that helped me get to the level of success that I've been able to get to in my own business.
Yeah.
Just being able to align with people that are going to be able to get you to where you want to go and be able to lift you up and take you to the next level. Because sometimes you get stuck and you don't even know your own barriers until you have other people that were able to overcome those same barriers, and then they take your hand and bring you through it.
Well, I think another thing I had to learn along the way too is like, I'm purpose built for relationships and communicating and thinking about people's needs and putting them ahead of mine more than most people. Like I'm actually not that great of an entrepreneur. Although I've had 7-figure businesses and I've built businesses and I've run teams and all that, I'm actually a better investor. And I'm a better long-term visionary and thinker. Like I'm better at that. So like when I see people like Cruzy, come out of nowhere and just run past me, or people like Cole Gordon come out of nowhere and run past me, and I've been able to help along the way. And I'm grateful for that. But I'm like, I used to get really butthurt because I'm like, why are they doing so well and I'm not? And again, I'm just optimized for a different thing. And we can all win in different ways. And I'm just blessed to have a lot of really fruitful, amazing opportunities that, if I was to be able to just, coach myself, I'd be like, if you could just sit down and focus on one thing, you'd probably crush. But the fact that you're spread out is why, and you're helping other people is why you're there. So like I've come up with, this idea of dichotomies in life. There's a bunch of dichotomies and they're all on a spectrum. And we have to decide what side of the spectrum we want to land in, or somewhere in a healthy middle, right? Extremes never really are where you want to land, but you have to explore the extremes to get to the mean. You have to find your balance that works for you. So an example of which might be the miser martyr complex, right? On one side of the thing, you're like hoarding and too tight. And on the other side of the thing, you're too loose and you're losing because you haven't found the balance. So you have to kind of reconcile that. There's the isolationist mentality. Like I'm going to build over here by myself on my own island. And then there's a collaboration mentality, right? Where you're going to help everybody to get what they need. And potentially, if you're too much of that, you're going to end up broke yourself. Like I know people who have insane networks, have worked with billionaires, and all they do is connect and they charge $47 for their services. It's like, what are we doing here? It's like a too martyr, right?
Yeah.
And I know people who are like so tight fisted that they're never going to help anybody and fuck everybody else. And it's just, that's not going to work either. So, and people go through phases and changes and ups and downs. And I think one of the books I want to write, which I haven't gotten there yet, is kind of talking about some of these top dichotomies in life that you have to master, like between collaboration and competition and between all these different things where it's like, if we can get to the point where we understand where we fall on here and what the benefits and drawbacks are to each side and find the healthy balance there, you can really be a lot more successful because there's no such thing as balance. Like Jeff Bezos thinks balance is bullshit. I tend to agree. It's like harmonizing is a better way to look at it. It's like conducting an orchestra and like what are the instruments? What are the notes? What's the playbook? What's the strategy we're running here? And how can it all flow together in harmony to create the outcome that we want?
Yes. And the coolest part about being part of a high ticket, like truly high ticket mastermind, whether that's 25K or 50K, is the caliber of people that you get to network with and get really closely connected to and become like family with.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people have a hard time understanding, like, how am I going to fill a mastermind where people can afford $25,000 when my network is not there? My network can't afford something like that. What would you say to somebody in that situation?
And there's got to be a compelling reason for you to join a mastermind as a participant and also for you to run one as a facilitator, right? And I say facilitator very specifically because you're not the coach, the guru, the person on top of the mountain saying how great I am and do this. That can be a way a mastermind is run. That's how a lot of people run their masterminds, but it's not really what a mastermind is. A mastermind should be a highly curated, highly valued network of relationships that together creates more than the sum of its parts. Right? It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 11. And there's this idea that has been lost along the way that, oh yeah, if it's just a high ticket group, throw everybody in here and sell as many as you can, and it's a mastermind. That's really not it. What they're referring to is more of a group coaching program or a client mastermind, a guru mastermind, where there's this one person that has achieved something of note, and everybody else wants to achieve something like that too. So they're going to pay that person for the access to that. A true mastermind is really a collaboration that is more than the sum of its parts. There's a spiritual element to it where it's like everybody's coming together to give, and in doing so, they're going to receive more than they gave, if that makes sense.
That's
So
freaking awesome.
so if you're looking at it as like, how can I fill this thing? I went to this thing. I saw, Joe Blow has a mastermind with 25 people at 25K. And oh my God, I did the math and I want that too. Okay, well, you're looking at a lagging indicator. Joe Blow has been out there building those relationships for however long, or building that cloud for however long, or building that business, that brand, that pent up demand. He's been adding value along the way for so long that those people are like, hell yeah, when that opportunity comes along. And there's ways to grow that influence and authority, but you got to start where you start, and if you're looking at the lagging indicators like money and success and status and prestige, you're always going to miss the point, which is what are you putting into the system, right? How are you adding value consistently? And it could be anything. I mean, you could build a YouTube channel, you could build a community, you could build a course, you could build a program, you could build whatever, right? But if you're not adding the value in the front end, how do you expect to stock the pond for the people who would buy that at the end? Like, by way of example, I've still run masterminds as well as teach people how to build them. And when I launch one, I have a certain amount of pent up demand. And depending on how often and how much and how off, whatever, these variables, like there's a supply and demand equation that I'm kind of managing, and I'm stocking the pond consistently over a long period of time. And so when I hit, I want to be able to sell it out. Like, I don't want to have to struggle to sell this thing. I don't want to have to worry about it. So like I put up a post on Friday before I did Mastermind of Millions last week about this house that I rented. You might have seen it, where, I'm going to Hawaii, and it's this big island mastermind, which is business and investing growth for 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. I had sold out by Monday. Like over the weekend, I sold it out. So I'm like, I'm trying to scramble and find adjoining houses and more space and make it bigger and make it more awesome. But yeah, that's the level I'm at now, where it's like, okay, I've done all the work, I've given all the value, I've built all the relationships. There's people that are just willing to throw me any amount of money just to be in my orbit now. And that's kind of cool. Like, I'm not trying to be Brad Pitt famous. I'm not trying to like walk down the street and have everybody mob me. I'd rather be Brad Hart famous, where it's like the right people know me and I know the right people and they answer my calls, my fucking call, because they know I'm not going to waste their time. And I've thought and considered long and hard why it's valuable for them to do so.
So it's a goodwill element. I read $100 million leads recently from Alex
Hormozzi's
Hormozzi.
goat, by the way. I love that big pitch he did for that book. I bought 30 copies or whatever. I was really happy with it.
It was such a good book. I've never seen so much value in things that you can actually implement in such a small amount of space.
And pictures too.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And one thing he talks about is building goodwill. If you want to have raving fans, if you want to be able to really move the needle, you got to pay up that goodwill first for a certain amount of time before you cash in on it.
Yeah. So that's part of it for sure. And then there's people like Chris, who is a cop in New Zealand, right? I don't want to give people the idea like you can't start from scratch. Like certainly people do it all the time and have a lot of success, but they tend to have a niche hypothesis that works out really well in their favor, right? They find an opportunity, a hole in the market, and they fill it with a mastermind. So, for example, Chris was a cop in New Zealand. He worked on the force for 7 years. He became like a private bodyguard to the prime minister, and that burned him out, like just all the travel and everything. And he had some other shit go down. He just decided to leave the force. So he still wanted to help cops, so he became a personal trainer. He was helping cops. He's this big bear of a man, 6'5", and he's a great guy, big heart. And he really wanted to help first responders and police officers. And he was like, dude, I'm just not getting it done on the financial side. Like, I love my mission. I love what I'm doing. I want to support these people, but I can't do it. Could we build a mastermind? I'm like, well, I don't know, man. Like, I'm sure you could. I just don't know that cops would want to join a mastermind. So that's our hypothesis. Will they want to do this? Right. And I've
I
got this
would wonder the
program.
same exact thing. Yeah, my
Yeah.
father-in-law is a cop, and I don't really see him
Yeah, you would
joining a
think like
mastermind.
maybe I don't know. Like I'm not going to say no because what do I know? But we got to test
Mhm.
this. So I have this program. You can join it if you want. He's like, it's kind of a stretch, and he fought over the money, and he just at one point he's just like, fuck it, I'm not going to get it done where I'm at. And he realizes, like I realize, it's not your money or my money. It's just the money. How resourceful can we be in funneling it towards us, right? And adding value in exchange for it. So he figured out the money thing. He got into the program and he actually had a lot of success pretty much out of the gate. Within a month, he had 15 clients, which was great.
No
So he had him in this
way.
little beta group. Yeah.
So there is a
And
demand for it.
yeah, it was a huge demand. And this is going back 4 or 5 years ago. So, he got on track with that. His first year, he had 100 clients come through the mastermind. He was helping them get into the force and stay accountable to their emotional and mental health as well to stay, ready for the job. It's a hard job. So he had a month that year where he made more as a mastermind runner than he'd ever made as a cop or a personal trainer in a year. So that's pretty cool. And then over the last 5 years, he's had over 650 people go through that program, and he's eventually shut it down because he joined our team, and we're spinning up some stuff with him. I'm actually grooming him to take over the business now. And, he's a very rare and special example. A lot of people don't get those kind of results, just to be fair, but he's a great example of somebody with a big heart and a big mission who all I had to do was just plug in the right tools for him, the scripts, what to say, the systems, like similar to what I did with Andrew and others and Brad, what is it that they're missing? If they have the heart to serve and they're showing up for the right reasons and they're committed, I can fill in the gaps for them. So that's what we do is we essentially help people to craft their mastermind offer, launch it, fill it, run it, scale it, and, we've had a lot of success doing that. And to the mid six, and even seven figures, our best client result so far has been 5 million a year on masterminds and 3,000 doors of real estate. And I'm actually
Yeah.
joining their team now to help them with their capital raising because that's a piece of what I do too is real estate. So, it's been a really cool opportunity. And the fun thing about masterminds is you meet so many different kinds of people. So anything you want to get into going forward in your life, any career move you want to make, it's like I already have a network. I already have people who are good at that. So like when I wanted to make a transition, I'm like, hey, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm paying the bills of this mastermind thing. It's been kind of cool, but I don't know that I want to scale it. It's kind of like a fun mission. I get to serve and support leaders to impact people I would never meet. And I do it for the reasons I do it, and, all that fun, freedom, family of choice, what have you. But is it going to create massive wealth? Is it going to create sustainable wealth? Well, I'm not sure, right? And I don't necessarily want to put all my eggs in that one basket. What is going to create wealth and has created wealth for a lot of people over many years is real estate. In 10 years, real estate's going to be around. I don't care what AI does. I don't care what robotics does. Communities will still be around. So masterminds, like that'll still be a thing. And people will still want a place to live. So when I was looking into real estate, I decided, who do I know that could help me to accelerate my progress, and how can I focus on what I'm good at already in order to make the biggest impact? So I started looking down the single family, the Pace Morby route, the guys that Jerry Norton, like all these different folks that have a good sense of this. But it's, to be fair and frank and not disparaging them any what way, shape, or form, like those people don't have a network. They're trying to break into this thing, bird dog, wholesale. It's a lot of brain damage. Like you're out finding deals and flipping deals, and it's like not a lot of money at the end of the day, and it's just a lot of stress. And you're dealing with people who are like bottom of the barrel trying to get out of their house because it's just killing them. And I don't want that kind of energy in my life. So I'm like, well, how can I do this more leverage and with better focus? So I have a client. I'll just start from the beginning. I went to NLP Master Prac training 5 years ago, and I show up on the first day on my motorcycle. I have a little Ninja 300, so bing, bing, and this big dude with fucking sleeve tattoos rolls up next to me on a Harley, and I'm like, "Oh, what's up, dude? Nice bike." And she takes off her helmet and waves her hair around, says, "Thanks, bro." And that was Jen. Jen is a straight up savage. So Jen's story, she features into Andrew's story as well, by the way, which will come clear in a second. She worked at Home Depot and Target for 20 years, Six Sigma black belt, won a bunch of awards, just incredible corporate.
Dude, she's so hardcore. I love Jen.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's how I met Jen. And then Stacy, her wife, was also a real estate trainer. So she was helping Nick Vertucci's community to do multifamily real estate investing. But the twist that she put on it was really cool is she made it virtual. So they own properties in cities they've never been to with teams that are on the ground and they don't have to manage it. And like for me, that really spoke to me because I don't want another job. I want to do real estate. I want to have exposure to real estate. I want deal flow. I want to be able to put money to work. And I want to help people find deals that make sense for them, But I don't necessarily want to, quit everything I'm doing or the other things that give me a lot of fulfillment. So, I invited them to my mastermind. I said, "Hey, why don't you speak about this topic? I think people would be really into it." And they're like, "Yeah, we'll do that. That'd be awesome." So they came and spoke and people loved it. And they're like, "We're going to start a mastermind now. This is so cool." We caught the bug and I introduced them to their first $150,000 in clients, including Andrew, including Bobby, who I went to school on the bus with when I was in middle school. He used to live in my town and they did a bunch of deals together and it just really went well for them. So I was like, okay, this is cool. And, Jen and Stacy, they're crushing it. Like they're doing really well. So they grew their Facebook group with Andrew's help and they joined Cole's program and got really good momentum. I think they're doing $5 million a year or some crazy thing, which is great. They've got a cool 3-year track they put people on to teach them this game. And, we got to talking again. Oh, and they, no big deal, but they've accumulated like 3,000 doors of real estate in that time. So they've done really well. Yeah. And we got to talking and like, what's your bottleneck right now? They said fundraising, capital raising. I said, okay, great. I have some experience with that. I've raised for hedge funds and charities and other deals and whatnot. And I feel like I know enough to be, at least helpful. So I spoke on that, and then that parlayed into I'm helping coach their fundraisers on how to manage money and just not make dumb mistakes if they can at all avoid them. It's just, you're putting your reputation on the line. You're really it's important to get it right. And I never wanted to be an advisor. I'm not interested in being a registered or licensed person. I'm not interested in doing any of that. So I think this is a fun way where I can kind of still support, but not be so on the line. And it gives me a lot of deal flow and access to opportunity. So I don't have to be chasing and calling and emailing and all the stuff I just don't want to do. I can just focus on the relationships, which is what I'm great at. So this is the latest thing we're up to. And it's been really exciting. I've been talking to some really serious people about it and kind of putting some deals through their paces. And I feel like I'm learning a ton, like a fire hose right now, and helping a lot of people with it. So it's been really fun. It's been really fun. Yeah. I just interviewed a guy that raised $750 million yesterday. So, it's pretty cool. I feel like I've activated none of my network. So there's definitely clear sailing ahead. So yeah, it's been a blessing. So yeah, if you want to learn how to build masterminds, we got you uncovered on that. You can check out 8minutemastermind.com. That's my book. It's a free plus shipping offer. So if you pay $6 and you don't like the book, then you can get your $6 back. It's not a big deal. But if you do want to learn how to do this, I can't think of anybody else who's been doing it longer or more effectively than us. And people are consistently raving about our community and the support and all that great stuff. And, like Brad and Andrew, they've been clients and you can ask them their opinions. They might have something different to share, but generally speaking, we've had a lot of great results. And I don't want to be the biggest. I want to be the best, right? I want to really help the people who come through our network to do what I believe is one of the most valuable and spiritual things you can do, which is create beautiful relationships and help people connect to resources and opportunities and people and systems that help their missions move faster forward that change the world, and that's what masterminds have the capability to do. And God, do we need that right now more than ever? And this society that is trying to divide us and keep us afraid of each other and not connect and remain powerless, that is a real way to take our power back, is to create communities of curated individuals who can really change the world. Because that's all it's ever done. The founding fathers were a fucking mastermind group. Benjamin Franklin had a mastermind group. Henry Ford had a mastermind group. The people who really change and make history, whether they realize it or not, they're building mastermind groups.
Dude, you're right. I mean, think about Jekyll Island. That's mastermind
group. The central banking system, mastermind group.
Wow. Wow, you're blowing my mind right now. All right, so where do people go? Because guys, Brad is one of the most well-connected and most reputable people that I know in this industry, connecting to other people that have not only built masterminds, but built masterminds that go on and change lives and have actual results. So if you want in the inside, if you want to be able to get in front of people that can afford masterminds and be able to get into the networks of individuals that are going to get the best results out of your mastermind, you got to join a mastermind. And if you're going to join a mastermind, join Brad's. Where do they learn more?
Yeah, so I think a great place to start is we have 3 free resources at 8minutemastermind.com. That's 8minutemastermind.com. We'll give you 50 hot seats to listen to if you want to check those out. 101 questions you could ask as a facilitator. We have a little cheat sheet. You'll get my book offer on the next page, as I mentioned. We ship that anywhere in the world for $6. And it's a good place to start to get a sense of like, hey, is this somebody I want to align with? And we can have a further conversation. So that's my recommendation. We send you the PDF and the physical book. We're also working on other funnels. So if that changes in the future, then just roll with us and get on the list and see if we're your cup of tea and build a relationship, and we'll go from there.
Heck yeah. All right, brother. Well, thanks so much for being on here. I appreciate you. Appreciate the insights. It was super good. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, everybody. Stay blessed.